Hello, everyone, and welcome to True Words Aren't Beautiful. And here we are with another video on the just do shit philosophy, as well as an update on my pilgrimage. So, let's give you a quick snapshot of my life right now, where I am just before I go up the next peak, which is Mount Mugong in La Union province in the northern Philippines. So let's start this out with what seems like pretty negative news, which I'm just going to shrug my shoulders at and say, interesting. 面白いです。真有意思。talaga? Yeah, I have to use different languages to express the level of emotion that I have and convey it in a way that really doesn't get done justice in English. So, I got banned from my second cafe here in the neighborhood. Yeah, that's not necessarily a great thing because I don't feel so happy when rejected. I don't feel so great when people read me the riot act and characterize me in such a way that it makes me say, am I really still a piece of shit when this keeps happening? I got banned from one place, Annex House. I'll just name names here because I will accept who I am and accept what has happened, but do so freely with no malice. Because I made people uncomfortable there, or rather, I told a joke about vegan cannibal meat. One barista did not like that, just rolled her eyes and said she felt uncomfortable, and then someone went and exaggerated that and started saying that I seem like a serial killer and I'm harassing customers and baristas. Then, in this next place, Bolo, a Hong Kong cafe here, they banned me for similar things when, if you observe the CCTV, if you observe the people around me, I'm a talkative person, a gregarious guy who's very amicable, very approachable, and my dogs, as adorable as they are, people love to play with them. One of them is a bit shy, the other one is very outgoing, which is basically me as an INFP in my Myers-Briggs. And if they like the dogs, they play with the dogs. I chat with them because they chat with me. Other times, if people aren't so hot about the dogs, I keep them away, stay in my own corner, and I draw. People want to chat, then yeah, I'm more than happy to chat. What I was told the other month, around the time I was having my suicidal thoughts and I had my incident, the owners of that cafe told me that I was making customers uncomfortable because they'd say, oh, well, we said it was okay, we didn't want it to be rude and tell them we don't want to play with the dogs, but we really wanted to just chat with our friends. And to me, this is more of a cultural thing and a values thing because I'm a straight shooter. If someone says they want to play with my dogs, they like my dogs, and they keep playing with them, I assume that's what they want to do. If they're chatty with me after that, I assume they want to chat. In a culture of indirectness, and also on a very individual level as well, I am not a mind reader. I don't know these people actually are just too polite and too shy and avoiding conflict because they don't want to directly tell me, hey, we would like to talk with each other. We don't want to play with your dog. And I say to myself that I can't read that. I'm not responsible for what you're not establishing as a boundary. If you haven't established those boundaries and you're giving me the signal that you're okay with it, I assume. But if in the back of your head you're cursing me out for not being a mind reader, I'm not responsible for your feelings or your failure to establish those boundaries. So I'm banned for that? No, it's not quite that. When I started asking people for donations and support for this pilgrimage, one of the owners rather, said, I can give 100 pesos. And I said, okay, cool. But what bothered me was not that the amount was small, because that's roughly $1.81 US dollars. The fact of the matter was, he was very avoidant of communication. He didn't really have any comments for anything I said. And I had this feeling that he really didn't want to engage me, whether I visited the cafe or reached out to him and sent him video updates. And his girlfriend, one of the other owners as well, also initially said she'd give a donation, and then she went radio silent right after for a few weeks. And I'm thinking, I don't think they actually support this pilgrimage. And it was true, they didn't. So to me, I say, okay, you can have your 100 pesos. And they treat me as an ingrate because, yeah, I can understand why they think I might be an ingrate because it is a small amount. And if they know it's a small amount, they shouldn't give that. But whether it's 100 pesos or 1,000,000 pesos, I would have returned it because you transfer energy with whatever you do. Money itself is energy. There's a big difference between throwing a wad of $100 bills or something like this and giving someone a dollar like this, bowing both hands like the Japanese do like this. And my friend in Scotland as well told me about an old tradition, which is a pound for the baby, where they give a pound note as a sign of good luck and respect, a little gift, the kind of thing you'll hold on to and you'll frame. So if 100 pesos was so much for them to part with, $1.81 damaged them and suddenly made them see me as a scammer, unstable, and unpleasant, invalidating the things that I had done before, whether it was cooking for them, buying them bento boxes and sharing my meals with them, inviting them over to my place, offering to volunteer help at their cafe, giving them ear acupuncture, tarot readings, and even also helping customers who'd come in there and recanting stories about how I'd actually helped a couple of girls avoid sexual assault because they had gotten drunk and they didn't know how to protect themselves from potential predators in the area. Suddenly, I'm the sexual predator and I'm chasing jailbait, and I'm just, since when was the legal age of consent still jailbait? I mean, yes, I was open about the fact that a lot of people half my age were showing romantic interest, but as you know, I have no space in my heart except for one person, whom I mentioned before in previous videos. And while of course I've had some crushes here and there, I don't have space for anyone else but this one person. So, all of that, I'm now a sexual predator, I'm now harassing customers and staff who are uncomfortable, and I'm a scammer because I accepted 100 pesos and I was very upfront about my purpose and intention of this fundraiser, donations. In their mind, I'm a horrible person for 100 pesos. Well, the truth is, the conversation that involves money, any conversation that involves money, whether you're borrowing money, offering to give someone money for free, or buy someone something, or propose a partnership, that can greatly influence how people perceive you, especially with their own relationship with money. I've been scammed by a lot of people before, and that made me very defensive. I've had a lot of people use that as emotional blackmail, particularly when people call me cheap or low vibration, all this spiritual woo-woo mumbo-jumbo stuff. But the truth is, I was very upfront about what I was going to do. I was not insincere about my altruism, which they now call into question, and they say, I can see right through you. If they didn't want to support me, no one was pointing a gun to their head. And the fact that giving such a trivial amount causes them to completely shift their view of me 180. I don't think this really says anything about me as it does about them. But what was actually disturbing, briefly, was that they said I needed to actually use any money they would have contributed towards professional help and medication. What's funny is, pretty much all of my therapists not only encourage this soul journey, but suggested it too. My hypnotherapist, my art therapist, one of my psychotherapists, and constantly by my former neuromuscular therapist long ago. Professionals. And none of them, including the psychotherapists, said I needed medication. Maybe a couple of years ago I might have had that as a suggestion, but now, no. It's making better decisions and being around better people and a better environment and having the right process. So when it comes down to these two people who have a background in selling insurance and a background in business and entrepreneurship, I don't think I'm going to listen to them for mental health and wellness. I will listen to the experts who I spent a huge chunk of money investing in myself to be better. And they all agree, well, almost all of them agree, to do this. The reason it's not all of them agreeing is because one of them is saying, well, if it helps, let's see. I mean, you've explored a lot of other options already. This couldn't hurt. I'm not totally in favor of it, but I'm not completely against it. As long as you're taking care of yourself, because there are risks that could happen on the road, especially if your mental state isn't totally stable. So, I have had a lot of growth because part of the just do shit philosophy, yes, I value everything I've done, all the work I've done in this mundane life, the weekdays, the normal days in the city where I struggle. That translates to when I'm having fun or when I'm in another environment or context. Those skills are very helpful. The emotional rooting and the physical exertion, the determination to be better. I've seen that on the mountains where on my first climb up a major peak here, it was a level 5 out of 9 and I did well because I trained my body and my mind. And then you have all these people with pot bellies, you have all these geriatrics who are there, and they're doing just fine. They don't even have a physical fitness regimen, but they're used to it, they're conditioned to it. And while I might be learning the skills and the refinement, I have raw power and potential to be able to be better. Especially if I'm equipped with the right skills and the right equipment, because now I do have my headlamp, I have my walking stick, and I have a better bag, not to mention good shoes and better clothes, not to mention experience and friends. So, by just doing shit and going out there, hitting the road, Jack, I leveled up in my experience, and that experience in the mountains gave me a little more resistance to dealing with the bullshit with ostracism and people judging me for my life choices and my path and not following their script. So, let me just go through my notes here very quickly. I have to say, just going back to the whole money thing, and in general, the concept of intent, it's important. If you give with grace and gratitude, you do so because it's not an investment. I have a friend who characterized this request for donations for the soul journey as an investment, and he wanted to get a return on his investment, and he didn't trust someone in a bad mental state to be putting himself in danger. He has no excuse to think that way because he's a Buddhist, a practicing Buddhist who's constantly talking to me about cultivating compassion, bodhicitta, and forgiveness. But he sounds more like my pawn shop owning stepfather. Likewise, these two people who work in insurance and entrepreneurial business, who run that cafe where they banned me from, I give them a lot of understanding and compassion because I say, well, they're not really spiritual people, as far as I know. They are exposed to some of the most difficult people and individuals. So they're not really spending a lot of time exploring. They're following what is the norm, and the norm to them is to medicate. And even then, whether or not they've had medication before and therapy, why are they giving that advice? Assuming they've never had therapy or medication, but they've seen people around them do it, why are they giving that advice when they have no qualifications to do so? Because it's the norm, and that's the environment. So, environment really affects us. It influences our well-being, for better or for worse, and is what led me to my suicidal thoughts and my attempt. The pilgrimage helped me get out of my context and frame to show me who I am relative to the world, rather than to my present environment. Just like when I was miserable last year living in the barangay slums of Mandaluyong, or when I was in Bohol living in a storage unit converted into a room, or during the pandemic when we were all locked in. So let me introduce the concept of rooting. Rooting is not something that doesn't just happen in the physical environment, but your emotional rooting. And that's the foundation of just doing shit to create habits that become your anchor into reality, into yourself, and your stability. Let me use a martial arts example from my art of Xin Yi, which is a mixture of Liu He, Bafa, and Yi Chuan. If you don't know how to root, which is to create not just the appropriate physical structure, but also have the proper preparatory exercise for your body, and so on to reinforce your physical strength and conditioning, it helps you make the appropriate shape to create more stability to protect yourself and project power. Just as a quick reference, we have relaxation, we have intention, we have mental hindrances that are part of the intention, we have intelligent muscle, we have joint and tendon strength, then we have body harmony, and finally we have something called contradiction and the strength trial. Those are the ways you condition both your body and your mind to have both the right amount of intention, the strength of your mind, and the physical power necessary to not only turn your thoughts into reality, but for reality to feel your thoughts. You can have all the intention you want, but if you have a weak mind, it just becomes wishful thinking. To go from wishful thinking to intention is when you literally utilize the divine spark in all of us. I'm using a little woo-woo language right now, but bear with me. I just watched a great video which really helped me right now with coming up with a lot of these concepts I'm discussing tonight for this episode. So when you translate this metaphor of the martial rooting to emotional rooting, it means that the right exercise or process will emotionally ground you, and the right habits will in turn create a natural sense of lightness and relaxation, as well as a lot of peace and tranquility that'll help you root and not be disrupted no matter what happens. Whether it's the physical disruption, like someone trying to shove you in martial arts, or the mental and emotional disruption you get from being ostracized or criticized, just like what's happened recently with being banned from a cafe. If back in October when I was banned from the first place, I was all, oh, fuck you, fuck all this, fuck everyone. They banned me, but I had already decided in my mind, they've just lost a customer for good. I'm not even going to read their message. And it's only after I finally decided to humor them and read the message saying, you're no longer welcome here, you're banned. I said, oh, cool. But it's not like I really wanted to go there anymore anyway. So, the other thing is, a shitty environment can be great fertilizer and inspiration to grow, rather than a perfect one, which leads to a lot of contentment before it quickly becomes boredom and entropy. So the environment, if it's bad, can be the shit that is the fertilizer for your growth, and a good environment, you can stagnate and rot. So there's only so much you can do before you find that it's best to be physically and emotionally uprooted to transplant yourself into a better environment. Author John Gardner talked about this, where people and plants alike struggle in certain conditions, but when moved to better ones, they really grow immensely. That note point was supposed to come before what I just said with uprooting, but it still makes sense. Anyway, so everything validates what I've been talking about every time I go up a different peak for this pilgrimage, and every time I go up a different peak, it makes me come back a better person. That's why up the mountains, higher and higher, deeper and deeper into the soul, diving deeper into that soul. That's why right now I'm just shrugging and laughing at what these people think they're doing to inadequately characterize who I am and tell me that I need medical help and to get professional care. So these are just ideas and self-certainties which are ultimately just programs or demons. It's not who these individuals who are trying to get to me are. They are not these thoughts. These thoughts are programmed into them. These thoughts are essentially evil spirits, the same way you wouldn't really trust someone or really, how do I say this? Someone is not necessarily in the right mind when they've been roofied. They are not giving you consent if they've been roofied. Likewise, when someone is having an episode, or someone is drunk, or high, or on a, what's that word I'm looking for, on a bender, from meth or something else. They're not in their right minds. So you can't really blame them. It's just a different opiate that's infecting their soul and their mind. And when I look at my suicidal thoughts in my earlier videos, I say, yeah, temporarily, my mind was afflicted by something that wasn't me. Just like I explored in the very beginning of the series, who is Johnny C? So, by being rooted, it means I won't judge even when provoked, and I'll still keep on moving. That's how you can apply that in the just do shit philosophy. You have to find your root. And then when you find your root, nothing can uproot you. Nothing can change you. You're set to grow upwards. You go deeper into yourself and you grow higher. You grow taller, like a great tree. So, I'm going into a better environment mentally, spiritually, emotionally, financially, and socially. This will continue to be validated, whether it's improving or not. And even then, we don't know if something is bad can really be bad, just like we can't really say something is great. Things are constantly changing and evolving. Just like the original A Clockwork Orange, the novel was 21 chapters. When it was published in the US, the original edition omitted the 21st chapter and ended with the 20th chapter, which was what the original Clockwork Orange film was based off of. Director Stanley Kubrick thought that's where the story ended, and he was infuriated to find out, no, it's an incomplete story, which completely changed the meaning of the story and the message of the novel. So, if a couple days ago on Christmas Eve I was a little upset by them reading me the riot act and mischaracterizing me, at the same time I said, well, let's see where this goes. And here I am saying, alright, well, I've had a couple days to just accept this as information, and because I accept it as information and an opinion and just one corner of reality but not the totality of it, I'm okay with that, and I have better places to get coffee if I want coffee. So that's where I am right now, and there's where some wisdom can be shared. Alright everyone, I will be leaving in a couple nights from Mount Mugong. Maraming salamat and terima kasih. 谢谢你们. Domo arigato. Dankeschön. Muchas gracias. Merci beaucoup. Grazie. Okay everyone, take care, and thank you.